What's up, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Former Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Kathryn Edwards is not holding back one bit in regards to her assessment of her former co-star Erika Jayne and the entire situation that Erika is currently wrapped up in. In fact, she called her a lot of very pointed and harsh words, and I am 1000% here for her not backing down and softening her stance when it comes to something so serious. So a big point of debate amongst Bravo watchers and Erika's friends as well is how much she knew about what Tom was doing to steal from his victims. By the way, this entire conversation took place on Behind the Velvet Rope with David Yontef, which I'm going to link to in the description box down below. I love that podcast. Definitely go ahead and give it a listen if you can. So she basically says, listen, although Erika might not have known down to the dime how much money Tom was bringing in, I'm sure she knew online based on Google or whatever, or that, Tom told her about the winnings of each case, and she could have done the math herself and figured out how much his take home was at the end of the day after taxes. She goes, listen, I used to be married to an athlete. I'm married to another athlete. You could go online and see, about how much they're making and do your own common sense from there, which I agree with to a certain extent. Because listen, Tom was winning hundreds of millions of dollars sometimes. So to me, it's not exactly unusual that Erika would have thought that she had unlimited money to play around with, especially considering he wasn't just making money from this job. He was investing in real estate. He was probably investing in stock and a bunch of other things as well. So it is quite hard to know exactly how much he would have been bringing in just from this one job alone, being a lawyer, of course. And then when it comes to the sincerity of Erika's marriage, Kathryn straight up calls her a gold digger, y'all. She said, and I quote, "It is money, honey." That's all it was. It was a business deal for her. The business dealing of the marriage, of settling with a guy you're not really in love with, and the consequence. I can say that I 1000% agree with Kathryn. I don't believe that Erika would have ever gotten with Tom if he did not have millions of dollars to offer her. Yes, she lasted 20 years with him, but that is 20 years as a rich, well taken care of housewife by a man who was barely even around. So it's almost like she was single with all those millions of dollars that she had unlimited access to all this time. And I do think that Erika was biding her time. Remember, she did say that she was going to hold his hand until he died. So I think that that's what she felt. She's like, oh my God, if I'm living like this already, just wait until this guy croaks. All that money is going to be mine. And life always has a funny way of telling people. There's always a warning. If you marry for money, you will earn every penny. So now here Erika is, someone who traded out 20 years of her life, 20 prime years, for wealth that turns out to have been stolen, and now will probably spend the rest of her life paying back this wealth. And she was probably waiting, thinking that she was about to finally hit that jackpot. It sounds very morbid to say, but listen, we've got to be real here. I think there's only one reason that a rich older man marries a young girl. He wanted a trophy. He wanted young, and then there's only one reason most times, sorry, this is not 100%, why a poor younger woman would marry an old man older than her own father. Sorry, it doesn't take rocket science. I know some people are going to take this personally. Don't take this personally. This is not 100% of the time. In my opinion, it's only 90% of the time. So when it comes to what exactly Erika should do with all the money that, are owed to the victims, Kathryn says, point blank period, give the SHIT back, give it to the rightful owners. I would be beyond embarrassed to gloat about spending when all of these victims are owed money. She, in fact, calls Erika's actions sick. Again, I'm quoting here. She says, that to me is sick. If she wants to hold around that she knew nothing because she has to, and that's what her lawyers are counseling her with, fine, but you could show some remorse. She could show some empathy, and that's the part for me that I am blown away by, how cold she is. And I completely agree with Kathryn. To me, the issue isn't whether or not Erika knew, because I think it's unfair to assume that she knew. All Erika knew was that this man was winning major lawsuits, upwards of hundreds of millions of dollars. So of course, she assumed as someone without much of an education, that the amount of money that she had to play with was unlimited. I think that is fair, but the problem is that now that she knows that it was stolen from incredibly poor people, impoverished people, orphans, widows, burn victims, etc., that she should be doing something with that knowledge. Imagine if Erika pawned off all of her jewelry, all of her stuff, maybe even had like a benefit concert to raise money. She absolutely could have raised that money. How many times do you see regular people online raising money for causes they believe in, and they end up raising tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands? Sometimes these major Twitch streamers or these major YouTubers raise millions of dollars. So she absolutely could have done that, and she has chosen not to. And that definitely, to me, is the problem. Kathryn was not done with Erika at that point. In fact, she said she is just plain trashy. She's always been bottom of the barrel, below the line trashy, walking around with underwear, climbing up on bars in front of us with no underwear, and not being fazed by how uncomfortable we are being greeted by her VAGINA. I'm telling you guys, go ahead and listen to that podcast, Behind the Velvet Rope with David Yontef. You will not regret it. It was juicy. Kathryn went in and let have. I always loved Kathryn. I thought she was so incredibly beautiful, and I loved her husband. He was so beautiful. They were beautiful together as a couple, and she was very strong as a character on the show. She did have a few head-to-heads with Erika and her husband Tom as well that I will probably go back and rewatch just because I am like all amped up off this interview. But other than that, like, I really would love to see her asked back. Do you think that she would be asked back? I think Camille has already burned her bridges, so I don't believe she would be asked back. But if Kathryn was asked back and Erika did another season, especially after this interview, that would be explosive, especially now knowing that Erika is on the outs with all the Housewives of Beverly Hills except for Lisa Rinna. That would be a season for the ages. Everything that she did to Lisa Vanderpump, everything she did to Denise Richards would all come back to haunt her next season, and I would be 1000% here for it. Guys, how do you feel about this massive Kathryn Edwards interview, calling Erika's actions sick, calling her a straight up gold digger, calling her below the line trashy? Wasn't it juicy? Is she telling the truth? Make sure to let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And as usual, we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.